Okay. I think I got it working this time. So, I don't know why OBS decided to just stop, even though I had everything set up. Alright. Let me see what I can do for getting this fixed. This is very dumb. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna copy that and boop. And hello, Susu. Thank you for joining. Just going to set up a thing. Don't mind me. Got to do it behind the scenes copy paste for something super quick, because I was not intending on oh, for God's sake, I wasn't intending on OBS deciding that the stream needed to cancel itself, but it is what it is. Okay. I mean, aside from the live stream deciding to cancel itself and then start back over again, I'm doing okay, all things considered. Okay, so let's... Okay, since I'm doing... Okay, cool. I see the updated link, so I'm just going to copy that and paste that. There we go. So, got one link there. Wasn't intending on this being the first 5 minutes of the stream, but it is what it is. Okay, and cool. Well, that's almost all of them. Here we go. Okay, those are the most relevant places. I was updating the Discord links. Yeah, it is super annoying that this happened, considering that I put in a lot of effort into the thumbnail, and then YouTube and OBS and YouTube decided to not communicate at the exact same time, so I had to start everything over again. Anyway. At least I have some tea. So, anyway, today I'm drawing the 200th page of The Legend of Jamie Roberts. So, I'm going to get right into it. I was going to draw Vanita and the Demon King today, but I actually had to do super hard crunch mode on that last night to get it done in time for a newsletter update this morning afternoon. So I just went ahead and did Vanita and the Demon King last night. So today we're going to be working on The Legend of Jamie Roberts, page 200, and on a art submission that I'm working on for a kind of a open art submission that's going on in the city of Toledo right now. I'll get into that here in a bit. One thing I got to do is I got to bring up reference images for the pants sitting on top of Jamie's head. I haven't even gotten to the penciling stage of this thing. I have the thumbnails, but I need to actually like pencil this. So, you know what? I'm going to bring up the original reference image for this one. Ooh, actually, this would be good. And yes, I did take a pair of pants of my own and fold them into something so that it would sit on top of my head as reference for this, because I'm that kind of a person. Okay. This didn't used to be my penciling brush of choice, but since I've started working with it more, I've actually really grown to like it. Yeah, the thumbnails for this were much messier, and also I didn't work with reference images for the thumbnail stage. So, having to tweak this a little bit. Hopefully, when I get into the vlogging game, it's going to be less of a tech headache. We'll see. Because I am looking to get into the vlogging game. I mean, if Kate Kavanaugh can do it, I can do it too. So with vlogs, what I would like to do with those is just show like one project at a time, or even just one day at a time, working in the studio on stuff. Get kind of a behind the scenes look on that. Of course, people who are members of my fan clubs will get those vlog updates first before anybody else does. But I figured, you know, vlogs showcasing like the process of how I work on something, or the trials and tribulations of studio work, would be an interesting little thing to share. Particularly with, I want to do an entire vlog on this project that I'm working on for the city of Toledo. Now, the city of Toledo did not directly commission me. They're open for submissions for a new project, and I'm working on a submission for this new project. So the city of Toledo is looking to update the art that's on their signal boxes throughout downtown. And I was like, hey, I'm kind of local to Toledo. I'm within the radius that they specify for artists who qualify for this particular challenge. I want to make something. So I've been working on that, but one of the challenges for the project is they want to feature art that has local flora and fauna, and I know nothing of the regional or local floral and fauna, so I had to ask around, poke around, stop at libraries, and actually this morning I went on a little hike at a nature park that's within walking distance of my new apartment building. Went there, did a walk around, took pictures of the there are these like placards all along the walking path that show you like the wildlife that you could spot on your hike. I was taking pictures of those because like I did see some birds on my hike, but not the ones that were featured on the placard, and most of the birds that I saw did not go up into the trees because we're right next to a river. Most of the birds that I saw were like blue herons, white herons, kingfishers out on the water, or ducks. But I wanted pictures of birds up in trees for this particular piece that I'm working on, and I'll show off that after working on the pencils for this. I want to get the pencils for this done first, because I've been putting off this page long enough. I need to actually work on it. yet to see Across the Spider-Verse, so don't spoil it for me. Although I have seen a lot of people on Instagram, particularly on Black Twitter and Black Instagram, go ham over some character named Miguel. I still haven't seen the movie, so I have no full context for it, but apparently he's got a very nice touche. Okay, this, for EJ has a little bit of a different look for pages 198, 99, and 200. So I'm going to bring up page 199, actually. Page 199 I'm going to have to tweak for the print version. I'm actually putting together the files for the print version of this book, because page 200 of The Legend of Jamie Roberts is the last page of Chapter 8. Since it's the last page of Chapter 8, that means it's time to prepare for The Legend of Jamie Roberts Volume 2. And I'm going to be doing something a little different for The Legend of Jamie Roberts Volume 2. Which is that the crowdfunding of that book is going to be held on Crowdfunder, not Kickstarter. And I'm going to go into the reasons why in a blog post that's going up on Thursday. I had to think of the timeline. Jeez. I'm going to be writing a blog post on Thursday going into why the change. In particular, one of the big reasons is printer partnerships, because I'm looking at a new printer for The Legend of Jamie Roberts Volume 2. I'll be honest, I don't trust the printer who did Volume 1 to do a good job of Volume 2, because they messed up Volume 1, and I don't want a repeat of that. So I'm looking at new printers. One of the new printers that I'm looking at has a partnership where if you crowdfund on Crowdfunder, there's a deal that you get by doing that. I'll go into more details about it in the Thursday blog post, but that's one of the reasons I'm looking to do the switch. There's other ones as well, like widget integrations and a few other things, but that's all technical stuff, and we can get into that another day. Now that I'm making the switch to full-time studio stuff, I am putting a lot more emphasis and energy on integrations. So, like, Crowdfunder can integrate with websites a lot better than Kickstarter can, which is one of the reasons why I'm looking to the switch. Oh, she has that sash across the front. Let me get this page up. There it is. Okay. Let me turn off the thumbs for a second. I feel like her legs are too short. Yeah, her legs are too short. One sec. I do vastly prefer doing digital pencils, because I've been drawing in my sketchbook a lot more recently, and it has been really frustrating to, like, be drawing something, realize that I made the legs too short, and I don't really have a lasso tool to, like, loop around it and warp. I have to erase and start over again. So, in that way, I do prefer making stuff digitally. Oh, I didn't know that was even a contest in France, where the objective is to attract as many birds as possible in your garden. I like that, though. I like that that's a thing. I wish more places were like that. Now the pencils, I'm kind of making them up as I go, because I did not have them thumbnailed out. Oh, did I share that link with... I'm going to take a second. I'm not sure that I shared that updated link with... There we go. Forgot to send it to a friend of mine who I DM'd on Discord. Oops. Did you ever say, I'm feeling like a depression or like a sad moment, like you can't draw because your hand says no, but you want to really draw? This is where it is really hard for me to articulate that, like, the answer is both yes and no. Because I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. It's gonna take me a minute. This is autistic brain being like, I have feelings, and then not being able to articulate, and I'm like, brain? This is not helping. So I'll phrase it like this. Part of the reason that I draw as much as I do is because it keeps my hands busy, because if I do not keep my hands busy, anxiety brain will kick into high gear and yell at me. So I draw to make this shut the fuck up. And it works. A lot of the times it works. So whenever I am not drawing is when I feel the least comfortable. To me. That's how my brain works. So I'm sorry, I wish I could relate, but like the only times when I feel that like urge to draw but I cannot draw, it's because body is being obligated to do something else. This was one of the frustrations that I had with working at the day job at the office for as long as I did, was because I wanted to draw in my sketchbook. And sometimes I could get away with it if nobody was looking. However, I could not draw in my sketchbook a lot of the time when I was there, because either customers would demand my attention, or something would pop up and I would have to put something into the system. Something would happen that would make me go, well, I can't draw yet. Or just being away from the laptop, not being able to draw my comics, period, was super frustrating for me. So all I wanted to do was draw comics. So my kind of psychological pain comes from not drawing. So the way that I mitigate that is I draw. It doesn't have to be panels in a comic. It doesn't have to be realistic people. Sometimes even just scribbles and blobs is enough to make anxiety brain go, I drew today, I am fine now. That said, there are times when my body cannot draw because wrist injury. I injured this wrist back in 2013, 2014, something like that. It's been about 10 years. Thankfully, I only broke the largest bone in this wrist, not any of the smaller ones. If I broke any of the smaller ones, I would have been royally screwed. So the only bone that broke in that wrist injury was what's called the distal radius, which is the distal end of the radius bone. The radius is like the thickest bone in the forearm. It is one of the ones under the skin here that rotates around the other bone, which is absolutely disgusting to think about, that underneath of your forearm there are bones that rotate around each other, and that is how you get this movement. I hate it. I hate it so much. So all that to say, I did injure a bone in my body. So there are times where drawing does physically hurt. It's not super duper often because I've learned to draw from my shoulder, and that's just more out of my caricatures training than it is out of having to compensate for a wrist injury. When I was drawing caricatures at Cedar Point, we were taught to draw from the shoulder and the elbow way more than drawing from the wrist. Because if you just draw from the wrist, you will be at risk for carpal tunnel super fast. So to negate that, draw from the shoulder and the elbows way more often. So that's how I draw nowadays, is from the elbow and from the shoulder. Not necessarily from the wrist. I have noticed that anytime that I do draw from the wrist, the lines get so much worse. That's just something that I've noticed in my own practice. Huh. Okay. So if I'm reading this right, Susu, your trouble comes from you want to improve your drawing so that you can work side by side with somebody who got a job elsewhere, and you feel like you're not at the same level that this friend is? Am I understanding this correctly? Let me know, because that's my understanding based on the text. Man, if you think about it, Asia in The Legend of Jamie Roberts has gone through a lot in the last 48 hours. If not the last week. Just like, woof, man. not to get too into spoilers, but holy dang. Like, this woman needs like a cup of tea and a hug. I don't know if the mic picked up the car horn happening outside of the window, but I agree, car. Oh, you know what? Did I draw? No, I did not draw the, Here we go. She's wearing a kind of a poncho-y top. It's kind of her go-to look. Yeah, when I did the thumbs for this, I thought her hair would be down, and then when I was working on page 198, I was like, her hair needs to be up. And now I'm like, oh, I have to edit this. That's fine. One thing I am going to do, whenever I'm done doing this live stream, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to put that thumbnail that I made for this to waste. I am going to re-upload this just as a regular video. It won't be able to have the chat replay, but it's just going to be the video. It's just going to be the stream. More comments, 1 second. She's struggling to do a project movie called This Screen and draw animation about her OC story and how it will turn out in August. She's very mentally bad. I try to encourage. Go. Okay. Oh, so were you asking this question on your friend's behalf? That question of, I'm feeling depressed or sad and I can't draw because my hand says no. Are you asking this because your friend is experiencing this? I just want to understand it a little bit clearer. I will say, if this is like a clinical depression thing, like if there's like an actual like depression diagnosis where there's medication involved, I wish I had an answer for you, but that might be a figure out if there's a side effect with the medication going on right that second. Because look, my only experience of dealing with depression is one relative who decided to self-medicate with alcohol, and a friend of mine who is on antidepressants, and she has gone into detail about how that works, but she might not be the best answer for, or she might not be the best like available example for how to handle this, because she doesn't do art as a day job. She does art as something that she does outside of her full-time job. So honestly though, if brain is like, I can't draw, I am too sad, just be sad. There's this idea that like, oh, I'm sad, so I have to find the quickest fix for being sad as possible so that I can get rid of the sad that much faster. The only fast way to get rid of the sad is to just be sad. Yeah, Jessica, you get it. Yeah, very very much that vibe. Antidepressants and benzodiazepines. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Yeah, oh man, and it's doubly weird whenever you're dealing with, cuz I wish more people understood this. A lot of medications that are designed and patented and given to patients are geared towards the male body. They are geared towards a body that only produces X amount of estrogen and X amount of testosterone. And I'm mentioning this because I have a friend of mine who, she doesn't live in the States anymore. She moved to Finland because healthcare was such a nightmare for her to contend with over here in the States that she was like, I'm just going to move to Finland. It's just so much easier. And also my significant other is over there. When she moved, she was able to actually pinpoint a problem that she was having with her medications over there way faster than if she stayed stateside. What was happening was she was taking estrogen, but as she was taking estrogen, that was interacting with her antipsychotic medications and making her get seizures. And it was only by having more frequent visits with the doctor and being able to relay the symptoms that eventually the doctor figured out, oh, it's because it's interacting with your hormones. So we're going to have to change the dosage a little bit to compensate with the hormones that you have in your system now, because these medications were not designed with estrogen in mind. Which is, kind of a big deal. And I wish that more people would openly disclose that sort of thing. I'm pretty well convinced this is also why looking for a decent birth control that doesn't try to, murder you in your sleep is so freaking hard. 'Cause, yeah, honestly, I have a lot of mixed feelings about medications as far as handling any kind of but this could be because autism isn't really it's not really something that you can handle with medication. It's autism is just something that you practice, and you can only really get better at it with exposure therapy and a lot of support systems in place there to give you feedback as to how you're doing. Cause and also being able to have this space to figure stuff out on your own. Cause there was a lot of stuff that I did not understand until I lived on my own and I was not surrounded by family members who either treated me like I was some kind of special ed case or tried to keep aspects of the real world away from me. So there was a lot of stuff that I didn't really know about until I was in college. It took me until I was in high school, borderline into college, to realize, oh, my older sister didn't hate me. She was just being sarcastic. That didn't make it any better, but now I understand it wasn't that she hated me, it's that her love language was sarcasm. And my autistic ass was not understanding that because autism brain takes everything seriously. Or literally, I should say. It was actually a TikTok that I saw recently that helped me understand something about eye contact. And I really wish that more autistic people would see the TikTok, but I'll go ahead and relay the highlights. Whenever somebody tells you that you need to make eye contact more, that is not an instruction to only stare directly into the eyes. And I understand why that is confusing, because the literal instruction is make eye contact. However, your autistic brain is going to interpret that literally and think, oh, I must stare directly into the eyes all of the time. That's not what neurotypicals are doing. Neurotypicals are taking in the entirety of the face. So when they say make eye contact, they actually mean look at the entirety of the face. It took me the longest freaking time to understand that. And it wasn't until it was like verbalized yesterday by somebody who was on TikTok that I was like, so that's why talking with autistic people can be really uncomfortable, because neurotypicals don't stare into somebody's face. They only stare directly into the eyes because their instruction was make eye contact, and they interpreted that as only stare at the eyes. Oof, I'm catching up on comments. A VTuber I follow has to pick between birth control and anti-seizure meds. She picks the latter. That's rough, because I'm hoping that the VTuber, that they are able to handle their body without birth control. I know I can't handle my body without birth control. It's awful whenever I am not on birth control. I've had periods where, well, actual physical periods, but also I've had stretches of time where the prescription that I am on does not refill automatically, so there's like a week or two period, not menstruation, but like a week or two stretch of time where my body starts to reset, and that's when I remember, oh right, I don't want to be off birth control. I'm pretty sure I have endometriosis. It is that awful. Yes, that is the one advantage of being a trans woman that you have, and I wish that my friend who lives in Finland understood this, because I'm like, you do not want my uterus. You really don't. Oh, no, you're fine. Jessica, you're fine. I've learned to live with it, and I've learned to tame it with the proper medications. The right birth control really will save your life. There was a stretch of time where I was actually trying different birth controls to try to get it to a point where, like, the cycles were less frequent as a form of, like, gender care for myself. I've now gotten to a point where the medication that I'm on is like, it's not every month, which is good. And there's no anxiety spikes. The medication that I was on previously, oh my God, that really messed with my anxiety. Like, the medication that I was on before this one, I would have a solid week before the end of the month where brain would be like, oh God, what am I doing with my life? What is the purpose of anything? And then, like, as soon as I started bleeding, it would be like, oh, I feel better. And I'm like, well, this is not normal. So, all of that is to say, yeah, the medications that you're on will really affect how brain operates. I swear to God, Unchile Ball, if you're going to be posting anything about crypto, I will be turning this off. Oh, my parents knew. My parents knew that, my parents knew because I was diagnosed when I was 4, and, the person who diagnosed me told my parents first. That didn't mean that the sperm donor was okay with it. But Mom did her best. she did her best in a time and place where support for autistic children just did not exist. So, you know, bless her for that. She tried. But a lot of like what I'm going through as an adult is just kind of not just looking at the things that I do and being like, oh yeah, that's definitely autism. It's like looking at the things that I do and going, oh, that is okay for me. And this is not something that should necessarily change. I recognize that there are some behaviors that are not okay to do in public because neurotypicals don't know what any of it means. Like stimming. I have a hard time placing exactly what my stims are, but stimming is just the act of doing something, whether that's like physical or something else, that because body feels like it just has so much energy, and you stim in order to kind of like self-soothe and get that excess energy out, or you stim because you don't feel like you're getting enough inputs, like sensory inputs, and so you start stimming to try to get those sensory inputs in so that you're not like stuck up here. Actually, I do have stims. A lot of the stims that I have are vocal, like vocalizing things, which is why I talk to myself a lot whenever I'm in studio or just by myself. Hey, Gusty BV! I was wondering when you were going to tune in. Sorry that I sent the link a little too late. Okay, okay. I'm seeing Snowball's comment, and okay. Yeah, the chat is pretty short. If you're able to make a video about it, I would love to watch it. Yeah, Gusty BV, I don't know how soon you tuned into the chat, but up to this point we've been talking about autism and how my dumb autistic brain likes to work. Yeah, unfortunately, there are a lot of scare campaigns out there that really like to paint that autism is some kind of like life-threatening diagnosis. Like, fuck you, Autism Speaks. Because Autism Speaks is really bad about scare tactics and convincing people that autism is the worst thing that your child could have. Which, it's just a different way of having the brain operate. It's a lot like ADHD. Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. And honestly, there's a lot of overlap between the two to the point where there's a entire thing called ADHD, where it's autism and ADHD both combined. I have friends who actually do have both, and I'm like, how does your brain work? Because like ADHD is all about like, give me noise, give me things to do, give me inputs and energy because I need to keep myself busy. And autism is like, I literally cannot stand another second of this noise. Like, I'm wondering how they balance that. Like, it can't be comfortable. Since I've had a lot of exposure to things, I don't have too many noises that make me go, mm. I will admit, though, that was one of the reasons that I left the day job that I did. Because the day job was at a warehouse where, sorry, I got sidetracked. I realized that this foot was being done wrong. The day job office that I worked at, it was an office job at a warehouse where a bunch of dudes would construct trailers for semi-trucks, particularly tarp systems that would go on the back of those trucks. So there were a lot of drill noises, hammering noises, soldering noises, heavy metal music blaring out the stereos, which I did not mind the heavy metal music, but there were some drill noises that I'm like, this is painful for me. Like, physically painful. I am clenching my jaw so tight right now. So really glad that I don't work at that job anymore, because I don't think I'd be able to handle those noises for very much longer. I am really trying to parse this comment. I mean, childhood can be traumatic for autistic and ADHD children. Like, I did not have a great childhood. Like, period. Regardless of my mental capacity. But, you know, after a point, it was traumatic because of how other people treated me, not because of how my brain worked. And, like, there is nothing wrong with me as a person, but there is definitely something wrong with somebody who would think that it would be okay to, you know, tell a child that, hey, you're not capable enough, or, hey, good job, but it's just not the right kind of effort that we're looking for. I hated 4th grade. I hated 4th grade so much. I heard you, boo-boo. I don't know if the mic picked up, but boo-boo decided to start yelling hello down the hallway. One of these days I'm going to make a comic about the early intervention school that I went to, because my parents put me in early intervention because again, I was diagnosed at the age of 4, and the closest thing to support that was present where I was at the time was putting me in early intervention class, where other, like, children with, you know, mental disorders or anything could go and, you know, get an early intervention and basically be socialized before being shoved off into kindergarten. Kindergarten was also rough. Honestly, though, having been an autistic kid, I'm like, I am not having children. Because I do not want to deal with an autistic child. Like, bless the parents who deal with them. But, like, I'll put it this way. There's one vendor who pops up at conventions that I go to on occasion, and he will sometimes bring his young daughter with him. And she's, like, very clearly, like, 5 or 6 years old and nonverbal. She just screams all the time. Like, that is her mode of communication. Like, if she's hungry, scream. If she's tired, scream. If she's overloaded by sound, scream. And I'm just like, oh my god. So for me, it's more, I don't have the patience for that kind of a thing. Like, it takes a special kind of patience to be the parent of an autistic child, and I do not have that. Just, hey, boo-boo. She's flopping in the living room right now, just being bored. Oh yeah, no, Gusty, I totally feel that. I don't like being interrupted either. Oof. You know, I am always feeling like really sorry for the people who did not get an autism diagnosis until they're adults, because like it's on the one hand, as an adult you can look back and be like, this explains so many things, and then on the other hand you feel like your childhood was robbed. But as somebody who was diagnosed at the age of 4 can tell you, having grown up with the understanding that, hey, I am autistic and my brain works differently, I don't know if that necessarily makes it better. But that could be just because of my own experience and my own childhood, because my own childhood was crap for other reasons. It was not the autism diagnosis that did it. It did not necessarily help, but it was not what caused the childhood to be as crap as it was. I'm 45. I need to get diagnosed with autism. I'm unsure how to do that right now. My psychiatrist can't help me. Honestly, I'm not sure how an adult would get diagnosed with it. Because, like, this is just how autistic brain works. We try to relate everything to our own personal experience, and I've not had the experience of being diagnosed with autism as an adult. If anything, Jessica, if it helps you feel any better, psychiatrists and therapists really don't want to diagnose autistic adults. Because I remember talking with my first therapist as an adult and being like, I was diagnosed with autism at 4, and he just straight up looked at me and was like, you're not autistic. And I'm like, well, fuck you, dude. Because, like, I know what my diagnosis is. I know what my experience is. I know what I lived through. You can't just tell me that I'm not autistic because of what I just told you, especially on the first session. Like, don't do that. But probably a good chunk of why psychiatrists and therapists are hesitant to diagnose autism in adults is because they probably don't know what autism in adults even looks like. Because autism in children looks a particular way, and it's really easy to spot. But autism in adults is a little trickier. And it's one of those things where you can only really self-diagnose. And when it comes to self-diagnosis, if you start giving yourself the treatments that other autistic adults are like, hey, this helped me, and you find that it helps you, odds are pretty high that means you're autistic. Also, as an adult, because the thing with autism is that you show fewer signs of it the older that you get, mostly because of exposure therapy, because you're just exposed to how neurotypicals act and behave, and you're exposed to so many more experiences, sights and sounds, and you're exposed to different types of routine. And while there is something to be said about autistic adults really not shying away from routine very much because it upsets them to stray from routine, because I've definitely had that. And I feel like, if anything, going back into full-time freelancing, having a routine is what's going to help me succeed as a full-time freelancer. Because when it comes to being self-employed and having to do things yourself, it helps to have a routine. For a bunch of different reasons. Oh, we're getting to one of my favorite lines in The Legend of Jamie Roberts. Honestly, like, Volume 2 has a lot of my favorite moments in The Legend of Jamie Roberts. Like, it has Jamie saying something and Thomas going, "And you were drunk." It has Chief Matek going up to a gosh dang dragon and being like, "Okay, son, I need you to come closer to me. Listen, I have something very important to tell you. Listen closely." Shush. Like, and then we're coming up to this moment, and I'm not gonna spoil it because we're gonna be getting there. But there's just so much about this comic that I'm just having so much fun. I'm having so much fun drawing it. Oh, good night, Susu. Yeah, my routine at work is chaos. You know, I get that. It's one of the reasons why I could not do fast food work, because that environment is just too chaotic. Even if you're given like a task to do, there's the implication of you got to be able to also do 7 tasks at the same time. But that is not what they told me to do. And it would frustrate me to no end that, like, they would give me a directive and not tell me the implied directives until they saw that I wasn't doing it. And I'm like, well, you should have told me to do it. It was also one of the reasons that I'm leaving this office job, because, like, the manager there would imply something needed to be done, but not tell me that it needed to be done until the next day, and he would look at me and go, "Hey, did you get this thing done?" And I'm like, "No! You just implied that it needed to be done. You didn't tell me, hey, do this thing. You need to look at me and tell me, hey, do this thing." And he was just not getting it. And I was like, well, you know what? If you're not going to work with me, I'm not going to work with you. Because after a point, you got to find a place that is, like, even if you don't come out as autistic, you got to find some place that is willing to work with the abilities that you have. And if they're not willing to accommodate that, don't stick with them. I will say that was one of the tricky things about being an autistic adult, having the diagnosis and trying to find something that is somewhat day job-esque, is there's not a ton of accommodations for autistic adults. I'm actually really liking how the pencils are coming out. I forgot a figure. In the back here. It's the morning after a party, so everybody's kind of like passed out in the middle of Main Street, basically. Because that's how they roll in Maliwe, is like, we party and then we pass out where we pass out. Cultural norms. There it is. I don't know if this shows up on the screen, but this is the moment that this is one of the moments I've been really looking forward to drawing in this comic, is just Daniel realizing that he's not wearing his pants. Because his pants are wrapped around Jamie's head. because Jamie and Daniel just got that drunk. I wish I could say that this was based on real life, but I've never gotten that schnockered, and I don't know anybody who has. Thank you, Jessica. I'm glad, because this is a very fun comic to draw. I'm so glad that this is fun to read. Oh, Gusty BV, gosh, I want to start freelancing on my own so bad, but I'm worried I won't be making enough to survive. So the secret to freelancing is multiple streams of income. It's not just having multiple gigs of a particular type at the same time. It's not just, oh, I'm working on so many book projects. It's also a lot of, okay, I have book projects, I have voiceover gigs, I have delivery things that I got to do. I have videos that I got to caption for this YouTuber or whatever. I have these videos that I got to edit for this one client. There's these other things that I got to do for these other clients. It's a lot of, and that's the tricky thing with freelancing, is that it is chaotic in its own way. Yeah, I'm actually looking to break into doing more voiceovers, because I do have that podcasting background, and I have a decent enough microphone to do it, and I have decent enough software to do it, that yeah, I can start doing more voiceover work. Like I've been doing a little bit of voice acting, a little bit. Like I did a voice acting bit with Ben Wright Human for his video that he did. I've been recording the Fourth Leg podcast, doing that stuff, and we've been doing an actual play recording, so that background is going to come in handy for putting together my voiceover reel and putting together a voice acting reel. So I want to put together a voiceover voice acting demo so that I can submit it to people for voice acting gigs. Yeah, Ben's video, that was a scary video. It was a scary video. Like, Ben is very good at horror comics. When I read that story, I was like, oh, this is too good. This is too good. Because I'm so used to seeing his comedy comics. I'm so used to seeing him do cospain that to see him do horror, I'm like, yeah, this is obviously your jam. But yeah, when it comes to freelancing, honestly, I branch out my services. Like, I'm going to be doing voiceover stuff pretty soon, hopefully, knock on wood. But I also do a lot of deliveries, handiwork. I also letter a lot of comics. I actually worked with a indie writer. Speaking of stimming, just the allergies are just awful this year. But I worked with a indie writer lettering his graphic novel for the last couple of years. Graphic novel. He's done a short series of graphic novels, and I've lettered each one of those. If I can find them online, I will definitely give him a shout out. I've also done short comics for other anthologies. Like, actually, now would be a good time to plug that Comics Buddy Brendan Hikes has a Kickstarter going for his anthology, Tales of Tomorrow. I'll see about whenever I post this up as just a straight up video on YouTube later. I'll put the link in the doobly-doo. And in fact, I'm going to make a note to do that, because he's got like 14 days left and he's not even halfway to goal. Post Brendan's Kickstarter in YouTube description. Okay. Cool. I have a pile of just scrap paper that I write notes on, because I did keep a bullet journal, and previously the bullet journal was the place where I kept my ta-da list. The ta-da list being like an inversion of the to-do, where instead of listing the stuff that I have to do, the ta-da list is listing the stuff that I have done. And it worked for a while, but I've realized that by treating my bullet journal like this, I was doing a couple of things. Thing one, I was repeating a lot of what my Trello board was already there being used for. The other thing was that it made me look like I was only doing work. And I'm like, at the point now in my life where I want my identity to focus less on my work, like the things that I do day to day for a job, and I want my life to more reflect like, these are the people that I was friends with, this was what I did in my spare time, this was what was important to me, and that sort of thing. Not necessarily how many pages that I did in a given week, which was what the bullet journal was tracking previously. Because it's like, yeah, it could be impressive that I did so many comic pages in a given week, but like, where does it say, like, what's the most meaningful thing that somebody said to me that day? Kind of a thing. So that's what I'm using my bullet journal more for now, is like tracking the things that, like, the meaningful things other people say to me, how I felt that particular day, if it's relevant, the headline news of the day. I especially started keeping track of weather stuff because in the northwest portion of Ohio, we were getting in this, and I think this was true for a lot of different places in the United States, but particularly in northwest Ohio, we were getting hit with the smoke from the Canada wildfires really bad. Like, getting to the point where we were told, if you're going to go outside, wear a mask. Kind of bad. Like, the air quality was just awful. And I'm like, I really need to keep track of that sort of thing in my bullet journal, because that's going to have an impact on how it is that I look back on this part of my life. Of course, I'm one of those weirdo people that keeps journals for different purposes. Like, I have a bullet journal now for tracking the stuff that I just talked about, but also I have, like, a reflections journal that I write in at the end of every day, being like, so how did I feel about today? Because I'm that weirdo. Oh, catching up on comments. Gusty BV. I've thought about breaking into doing YouTube like doll customs, but I need a new camera. When I started with the webcam that was on my laptop. Like, the more that you do it, the more that your audience will resonate with you. And if you build up a decent enough audience, your audience will help you get new equipment. Like, shout out to Jessica. She got me a camera mount so I can actually record, like, the art process whenever I draw it, like, for example, in my sketchbooks or at the drafting table. I can actually set up basically a rig to mount a camera on and record. And shout out to Jessica because she got me that rig. Yep, that's you. So yeah, if you can, start with what you've got, because if you build up enough support and enough of a following, and you can just ask, hey, I'd like to upgrade my setup, but in order to do that, I need to get, like, this. And, you know, if the audience is able to, they will help you out. Like, not just shout out to Jessica, also shout out to Babe and a bunch of other people who I will be shouting out at the end of the stream. Babe is one of the other folks who really helps with getting stuff out. Gusty BV, unfortunately all I have is my phone. The Nikon we have, there's something wrong with the zoom on it. That was actually how I started making videos, was just with my phone. And I don't know if there's a Five Below near you at all, but I actually found a vlogging kit at Five Below that was like $5, and it had like a little light and a little microphone that would plug into the headphone jack on the phone and record decent enough audio that, like, honestly, when I start recording my vlog tomorrow, I'm probably just gonna set up with that and use that. 'Cause, like, yeah, I could wait until I get an SD card, 'cause I do have a decent enough camera that's not my camera phone. It needs an SD card. I do not have an SD card. I price checked, and, like, an SD card is not that expensive, but I haven't had the chance to, like, stop at the Best Buy and get an SD card. So until I can get to that point, I'm just going to use my camera phone. Yeah, honestly, vlogging kits are not that expensive. Even, like, the Best Buy ones, there are Best Buy ones that are, like, $10-15, but, like, if you can get the one at Five Below that's like $5, like, that's a good place to start. Okay. Now because Dan is pantsless here, we're gonna be doing this a little fast and loose. There's a knee. There's a calf. There's the other half of the calf. There's his thigh. And there we go. We avoided drawing any junk. Just gonna shade that in, though. Because, like, you can say what you want about the Legend of Jamie Roberts. There's no, like, there are no dangly bits. There you go. Hash that out. Okay, so there's Dan, and now for Jamie. Okay, for the Jamie reference, I'm actually going to pull up a different comic up here in the sub view. I'm going to pull up this page. Yeah. This is still my favorite panel. I don't know if you can see this, but just up here in the upper right with Jamie just being like, yeah! This is still one of my favorite panels of this entire gosh dang comic. I love drawing this comic so goddamn much. Oh, I love these characters. I really do. Oh my god. Yeah. Oh, I should work on... Okay, so full admission, Volume 3 script is still a work in progress. I'm trying to remember the last chapter that I did script for. I want to say it was chapter 11, and I've started on chapter 12. That sounds right. Also, Volume 3 is gonna have some other favorite moments of mine. Like, it's got one of my favorite Basho quotes. I'm not gonna spoil it. Yeah, it's like Volume 3 is gonna have one of my favorite Basho quotes. I'm not gonna get into it too much because we still need to get Volume 2 out into the world. Yeah, it's just, there's just so much about this comic that I'm just like, I love drawing it. Okay, I gotta turn the thumbs off for a second because it was messing with how to draw this, which is what I need to do. Okay. I've drawn Jamie's nose so much that I could draw it without referencing the thumbnails. Yeah, one of the animation tips and tricks that I picked up, because I did a summer studio when I was in senior year of high school. That was a animation intensive. Because at the time I was looking to get into the animation industry. However, that was also the same time that the industry was making moves to switch from 2D to 3D, and I tried working with the 3D programs, and I went, I hate this. And so I just switched to being a 2D arts major instead. But I did take a summer studio intensive workshop where I learned the basics of 2D animation. And it wasn't just like, you know, the ball squishing animation exercise, though that was one thing that we did. And it wasn't just make your character's head turn. We also did that too. It was also talking about character design and picking a character design that will work for animation, because you are going to draw these characters over and over again. And that is very true for webcomics as well. So if you're going to be drawing these characters over and over again, you really need to not only simplify their designs, but also keep in mind the shapes of those characters. Jamie Roberts has a very distinct hairstyle. Daniel has a very distinct torso. He has a very distinct torso, and he has a very distinct hairstyle. He's also the only one out of Jamie, Thomas, and Daniel. Daniel's the only one whose earlobes are attached to his jawline. While all three do have the Captain O'Malley gang tattoo, Thomas is the only one whose tattoo is not clearly visible. Stuff like that. Also, Thomas is the only one that has, like, a jacket. Okay, for Jamie, I'm going to have to put them in a separate layer. I'm realizing that I need to shift their position, and also drawing their torso is going to be a little trickier if I continue drawing, like, transparently through Daniel. So I'm just going to move them up here-ish. That looks about right. I gotta turn the thumb layer off, though, because that does not line up anymore. Okay. For the purposes of this, it's going to be funnier if the pants fall over Jamie's eyes. I actually drew this moment in my sketchbook way back in, I want to say 2016, and I was like, I gotta find a way to make this into the comic. And I found a way, and it works. Okay, there we go. Because Jamie's still kind of drunk, they get the drunk bubbles. Oh, catching up on comments. Gusty VV, that screwed me over with animation too. Like, I was forced to do 3D at college because that was all they offered. Final project my last year was such a bad experience, it turned me off from animation. Yeah, I am so sorry, because that's like one of the worst things that could happen is like, because, you know, you picked that major because you had a passion for art, but working on something that makes you go, oh god, I hate making art now, is one of the worst things that could happen, in my opinion. Aside from like a personal injury that makes it so that you can never draw ever again. I'll be honest, when I broke this drawing wrist back in like 2013, 2014, I was like utterly petrified. Like, I was a blubbering mess. Thankfully, only the largest bone in the wrist broke. If it had been any of the smaller bones, I would have been fucked. But it was just the largest bone in here, so it was like, it healed pretty fast. And I managed to get a little bit better with my left hand on things. But overall, like, this healed pretty okay. Now it only gives me problems if it's like, if there's a barometric pressure drop. This and my knees. Like, my wrist and my knees will just be like, there's a change in the air, and so I must ache immediately for hours. And I'll be like, why? Oh, Bree's eating her food. Good. I heard the little crunchies next to me. Her little food plate is next to my standing desk, which is where I'm drawing right now. Oh, I don't need to move it. I just need to cut, paste. Because cut, paste, pasting it puts into a different layer. Pencils, Jamie. Okay. And just so as I know, there we go. The main pencil layer, I reduced the opacity. That way I don't confuse the two layers. I've had that happen before. I forgot Jamie was holding tea. They were holding the vomit tea. It's what they're calling the hangover tea, because it smells like vomit. It's like, hey, pass the vomit tea when you're done. I love these characters so gosh dang much. Honestly, I am glad that I ended up not majoring in animation, that I just went to school for 2D stuff. I originally tried for the Bachelor of Fine Arts track, but ultimately I am glad that I just went the Bachelor of Arts track. For one thing, BFAs don't get a minor, and I really wanted to have a minor on my degree. Because the implication with the Bachelor of Fine Arts program is that you don't have time to take any classes other than art classes. But I really wanted to round out my education and also take business classes, but business classes that were geared towards art majors, which was why I took the arts management class. I originally was going to have a minor in pop culture studies because Bowling Green has a pop culture studies program. But looking into it and doing a little bit more study on it, I was like, I could do other things. So deciding on a minor was the trickiest part of going to college for me. Oh, that teacup should not be at that angle, Jamie. That's a little bit better. There we go. Hold on a sec. Okay. Just using my own hand as a reference, don't mind me. Yeah, I used to be one of those Giga Chads that was like, I didn't use any reference to draw this, and now I'm just like, I use all the reference. I am not proud. Oh, picking up in the live chat, because this will be going up as a replay just as a separate video later. Gusty BV mentioned to me in DMs, because we've been chatting on Discord about tattooing, but I would also love to go back to school to do glass blowing. That would be neat. Honestly, the opportunities to do glass blowing are lousy up here in Toledo. And by that I mean there are so many opportunities and chances to do glass blowing up here in Toledo. It's their thing. So whenever you find your way back up into this neck of the woods, you will have so many options. You'll have so many options to get back into glass blowing, my dude. You will be just fine. Boot. Honestly, this is probably going to get cut off in the final iteration, so I'm not too worried about it. But there we go. The pencils are done. Huzzah! Well, mostly done. Should probably add a few more sleepy bodies back here. Because this is after the party, so there's a lot of sleepy bodies here. Yeah, that'll do. I'm actually really liking how that turned out. I forgot to draw in Jamie's eyes in this panel. That's a little terrifying. There we go. A little less terrifying. Cool. That person is not wearing pants. Let's fix that. There we go. Cool. I'm still gonna draw the windows and doors to that angle. I have a reference for this. Let me pull it up. Okay. I did. No, I was right to erase that. I don't need to second guess myself like that. We're okay. At first I was like, did I need to erase that? Yes, I did. I needed to erase that. Okay. Alleyway. Door. And alleyway. Door. Okay. Or at least door frame. There. Really says a lot about a culture when you have doors that are just curtains. Honestly, there's a lot about Korath culture that I did a lot of world building for, and whenever I like draw it, it sometimes like escapes my mind that, oh right, this is something that's particular to Korath culture, but is not necessarily something that Jamie, Thomas, and Daniel would be really used to. And that's going to be, there's going to be a moment where that happens again in the next chapter after this one. There will be a moment when Thomas will whisper to Jamie, shouldn't a servant be doing that? And Jamie will be like, and Jamie is going to be like, haven't you noticed that there's like a distinct lack of servants? Which says a lot about a culture. Okay, so I X'd out of that, because I'm going to take a break from that for a second. Because honestly, The Legend of Jamie Roberts, page 200, is not the most urgent thing that needs to be done at the moment. The most urgent thing that I gotta do is work on this submission for the Toledo Arts Commission that I'm going to be submitting hopefully either tonight or tomorrow morning. Oh, I'm catching up on comments. Jessica says, I finally figured out what I want to get tattooed on my arm, but I don't heal right, so I probably can't get one. To which Gusty BV was like, don't heal right. And Jessica was like, I have fibromyalgia and a host of other health issues. My body doesn't heal. I'm still dealing with damage to my chest muscles from like 4 years ago that will not get better. Long COVID just makes this all worse. Yeah, long COVID is a bitch. And I'm sorry that you are dealing with that. Yeah, tattoos are... It's one of those things that I would love to get more of. But I do feel you on the whole, like, my body takes a while to heal. And getting a tattoo could either make it worse or it just won't heal right. So, like, I get it. I imagine that would be so much more uncomfortable with fibromyalgia, though. I mean, I only know fibromyalgia from, like, what other friends have told me about it, so I am sorry. Do you have any tattoos? I've never asked that, because, like, I do have one. I only have the one right now. It is this one. The little... Probably can't see it on the camera, but... there it is. Little four-leaf clover tattoo. This was something that I got with my mom and my siblings, because it was always the four of us against the world, and we wanted to have a little, like, family tattoo to commemorate that. And I'm hoping, because I have it saved up now, I just need to, like, actually schedule an appointment with a tattooist to make it happen. But this is something that I've wanted to do since getting The Legend of Jamie Roberts Volume 1 to print. I want to get the Captain O'Malley gang tattoo around my forearm in the same place that Jamie Roberts, Thomas and Daniel have their tattoos, which is like right at the base of the deltoid muscle, but like right on the bicep and tricep. Right in there. Like, I want to get that band on my upper arm. Because that was something that I told myself I would get that tattoo if I ever got Jamie Roberts Volume 1 into print. And it's been in print for like 2 years now. But in fairness, the last 2 years have been bonkers. So, you know, I'm just happy that I have the money set aside so that I can get it. Now I just have to make the appointment. Okay, so this is a submission that I am working on for the Toledo Arts Commission. Now, the Toledo Arts Commission has, it's not quite a contest, but they are open for submissions at the moment. Because what they're looking for is they want new art to decorate signal boxes at crosswalks throughout downtown Toledo. And the submission process is open to anybody who lives within 30 miles of Toledo. And I'm like, hey, I'm in the area. So the trick with the submission is it has to feature Ohio, specifically Northwest Ohio, flora and fauna. And I was like, I know nothing about this. So I've had to do a little bit of research. But hey, research is one of my favorite things to do. I can fall down so many research rabbit holes. So real happy that I could fall down some research rabbit holes. And I'm actually within walking distance of one of the city parks. So this morning I just walked over to the park along the hiking trail and kept an eye out for the birds and for the little placards that detailed what birds could be spotted. Excuse me. I took pictures, at least of the placards. I didn't really spot any of the birds that were on the placards, but I did spot blue herons, white herons, ducks, and kingfishers. Unfortunately, those were none of the birds that I wanted to draw for this project. I wanted to draw birds that you would spot up in the trees for the purposes of this. So now, though, my conundrum is I do want to draw this, and I am going to draw this. However, I had the idea of, because the birds are like scattered throughout the trees here the tree branches that I am painting in here. Now, I had the idea the other day. I was talking with the lady who replaced me at the office day job, because she's just really easy to talk to. I like her. I like her vibe. So we were talking, and I brought up that I was working on this. And I said, what if I drew these little birds with tiny scarves around their necks? But now I'm like, should I do that? So now I'm torn. Now I'm torn on whether I should draw these little birds with little scarves around their necks or if I should just leave them be. I don't know which would be better. There's a little whimsical part of me that's like, just draw the fucking scarves. But let me know what you think. So if you're wondering how it is that I'm getting this effect painting in the bark, what I did was I'm drawing with the Bit Husky India ink brush tip. I have this layer set to have a border effect, and the border is black. That way, I don't have to try to draw the outline around it. The outline is already drawn for me. And I don't have to fill in the lines completely. I can, in fact, leave some of these lines like so, and it looks like bark. This, I figured that this was something that I could do and that I could feasibly draw, and I am so glad that this is actually working out. It's one of my favorite things about working with Clip Studio Paint. Once you've worked with it enough times, you can work with the shortcuts and make it like really work. Yeah. Now, as far as the Jamie Roberts page goes, I actually have some backlog of pages, so getting that page done is not super duper urgent. However, the submission for the Toledo art project that I just detailed, the project itself is due by end of day tomorrow. And I'm like, oh geez, I don't like procrastinating at the best of times. So I'm just going to do what I can and see if I can get this done today. Yeah, autistic brain really does not like to procrastinate on things. Because procrastination is just anxiety. It's just another form of anxiety, and I hate anxiety. I hate anxiety so goddamn much. The less that I feel it, the better I feel. That said, there was a philosophy around anxiety that I first heard on Critical Role of all places. When Emily Axford was a guest on there, she said something that I had not heard before, that I'm like, I know that this is just your character trying to be wise, but I've never heard anybody with this philosophy, and I kind of like it. And the philosophy she said was, anxiety is excitement without the breath. And I was like, God damn it, I hate it when this is right. 'Cause, like, yeah, really the only major difference between feeling anxiety and feeling excitement is that when you're excited, you breathe. When you're anxious, you often forget to breathe. And speaking as somebody who's slowly edging back into meditation after a hiatus of not meditating for a while, it's true. I hate it, but it's true. I hate that it's true, I should say. But it is true. Well, what I'm doing here, to explain my process a little bit, is I'm painting in the tree first before I get to the birds. Because the birds can be painted and drawn on top of the tree. What this is that I'm painting on top of is just the pencil layers, of which there are multiple pencil layers. They're in a group. Because you can group folders on Clip Studio Paint. I'm so glad that I could group those folders together, because, like, oh good golly, Mr. Molly, there's so many pencil layers involved in this project. Like, there's a layer just for the sketches of the birds. There's a pencil layer just for the leaves. There's a pencil layer just for the tree. And honestly, inking this in, there will probably be just that many layers, if not more. Probably the scarves will be their own layer if I opt to add the scarves in. Also, yes, I did make a custom brush for the leaves for this project. That's why there's these, like, scattered leaves throughout here. I made a brush. I made a brush tip because I was like, I am not drawing every single individual goddamn leaf. That is going to take too long. So I just made a brush tip for the leaf. I will demonstrate so that you can see what it looks like. Leaves. I actually did two variations of the leaf, one with the leaf facing one direction, one with the leaf facing the other way. Let's do this direction. And leaf. And the way that I set up the brush is that you can put the leaves on top of each other, and it'll actually, like, show. Like that. Like, it'll actually overlap properly, which was what I was going for. Boop. Okay, it's a start. I'm gonna go back to painting the tree. Oop. It's honestly just faster to do it like that. I am not drawing every single individual leaf because like the under sketch layer that I have, there are so many leaves. There are so many leaves drawn in that I'm just like, I am not drawing every single one. I'm just gonna make a brush tip and we'll do it that way. It's just so much faster. There's a lot of things that you can do in Clip Studio Paint. I have an entire video of like Studio Paint tips and tricks that highlight some of the things that I've learned. I have since learned a lot of other new things, like having this in the upper right corner where there's this navigator window. If you click this tab here, it'll show you a sub view. The sub view is so handy to have reference images in. For example, I'm going to get one of the bird references that I took. Here we are, the American goldfinch. Gotta rotate it. But there we are. Now it's in the upper right corner, and that bird is right there, and I can color sample it if I need to. Boom! Done! Look at that. It's beautiful. It's amazing. I love it. Anyway, I'm gonna get back to coloring this tree. Yeah, I've been working with Clip Studio Paint for years. I've learned so many things. It was also the drawing program of choice for a startup company that I worked with, Never Ending. And especially because a lot of the artists who also worked with us also ended up using Clip Studio Paint. While they were versed in Photoshop and Illustrator was an important part of the job, Clip Studio Paint was really the software of choice for new character designs and character concept sketches and things like that. Like, it's just so much easier to sketch in Clip Studio Paint than any other software that I've experimented with. Now, I have not used Procreate. I feel like that is a very important caveat that I need to bring up. I have not worked with Procreate. I do not have a drawing tablet. Like, I don't have an iPad, I should say. Because, like, I'm drawing with a tablet right now. But it is a Wacom Intuos 4. It's not a tablet that you can draw directly on the screen. It's not one of those. I would love to upgrade to that point. But we'll get there when we get there. I'm actually considering, because the Toledo Arts Commission really likes supporting the arts, and one of the things that they do is they have something called the Accelerator Grant. And I'm thinking of applying for the Accelerator Grant. Just a matter of what I want to ask for that I would put the grant money to use for. Probably I could ask for Accelerator grant funding to get, maybe not a Wacom. A Wacom would be more than what the grant allows. But like, by a Wacom I mean like the kind that's like a big ass screen that you just draw directly on the screen, because the screen is the computer. Like, that's a little out of budget for the grant program. But something similar could probably be asked for. I'll have to look at the details. Okay, so we got the tree bark. Sweet. We're gonna save progress real quick. I'm gonna have my tea. Okay. Cool. Da, 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 da. I have heard good things about Procreate. I'm catching up on the comments. Yeah, Jessica mentions my wife has Procreate. It's awesome. I think, Jessica, if I'm remembering right, because I know you've downloaded my coloring book pages before, have you done my coloring book pages in Procreate? I feel like you might have done at least one or two. Also, Gusty BV also has the Intuos 4. The Intuos 4 is very nice. I really like working with my Intuos 4. Oh, yeah, I've heard of Huion. Jessica brought up, if you want a graphic tablet, check the Huion clearance section. I've heard of Huion. They actually come really highly recommended, along with so there's an online art school called Winged Canvas that posts tutorial videos up on YouTube. They actually have an entire section on their website that's dedicated to, hey, I want to get started drawing. What tablet should I get? And there's just an entire page of recommendations. I used Photoshop CS1 on an old Mac. You know, I get it. When I could get away with it, I had a hack of like Photoshop CS2, I think it was. And that was my program of choice for a while before I made the switch to Clip Studio Paint. Real glad that I made the switch to Clip Studio Paint though, because like when I was working with Adobe Illustrator for the startup, I got real sick and tired of paying $22 a month for Illustrator. But that's just me. Okay. So we got the pencils for, okay. I moved the tree layer down below the pencil layer, and I'm going to up the opacity on the pencil layer a little bit. Okay, the beaks are coming through. It's just chickadees have such tiny beaks. Okay, so with that, I'm going to start inking the birds. Inks birds. Okay. Ooh. Another thing I can do. Tree inks stems, because the stems will also need a border effect. The border's not going to need to be as thick. Let's try a 5. But it does need to be green. Actually, let's bring up one of the reference images that I took on the hike. My camera does not auto-rotate. Actually, the stems are the same color as the tree itself, so I'll just work with that, just with a smaller brush tip. Let's do 30? And now comes the meditative part of drawing this tree. Running out of things to say. If you have any questions for me, feel free to ask them. Oh, catching up on comments. Jessica says, we have some Huion products. They are all really good. Photoshop CS2. I might have done one with Clip Studio Paint as well. Gusty BB says, I thankfully have a copy of it on my computer that I got in school. That was a physical copy, so I don't have to pay for it. And they're CS6. Lucky you! That's amazing. When I was in school, I was part of the 2D arts track, so working with, like, the Photoshop Creative Suite, that was all digital arts students. So while I could qualify for it, it was never a requisite in any of my programs to get Adobe Creative Suite. I did work with it for 2 classes. One was Introduction to Graphic Design, and the other was Introduction to Visual Communication Design. No, Visual Communication Technology, because it was VCT 101. I actually learned how to video edit in that class. It was not hard. I did make a stop motion animation. I have since lost the original animation, unfortunately. It's sad because I would have loved to have, like, posted it up on YouTube, but I can't do that because the actual animation got corrupted, sadly. It was sad too because, like, it was this little animation of, like, an umbrella and rain boots moving around, set to Walking on Sunshine. It was very cute. It was super cute. Now, full disclosure, I did move the tree layer under the pencil layer. So if you're wondering why you're seeing the sketch layer, like I was a second ago, just remember that the pencil layers are now sitting on top of the paint. I can't move it, but I'm not doing that right now. I'm just drawing out the twigs before I add out the leaves. Oh, nope. Don't want to cut the layer. I just want to undo the thing that I just did. I should probably change the hotkey for cut the layer so that if my finger accidentally goes Control X, it doesn't do that. It does something else. I just haven't gotten to that yet. Okay, when it comes to drawing the leaves, I have an idea of how to go about it. And this is tying into a shortcut that is on the tablet itself. To demonstrate, let us go to that. Now, on the tablet, I'm hitting a special circle button on the side here until I can control the brush size. And that's what I wanted, was I want to control the brush size. Words. Okay. Inks, leaves, boop. Switch to that. Boop. Needs to be bigger. Boop. Aha! See, that was why I wanted this control, so that I could do that. There we go. Switch to this. Boop. Needs to be a little bit smaller. Boop. Okay. I am so glad that I made this brush. It is making my life so much easier. Doot. A little bit smaller. There we go. There we are. A little bit bigger. There. Now a little bit smaller. Switch it up. Bing. Okay. Now it needs to be bigger. Bing. Aha. I'm so used to the scrolling function, which is that's how I'm shrinking and expanding the size of the brush. Is there's a scroll meter on the side of the tablet here. That's how I'm controlling the brush size, is with that. I am going to do something a little different. I'm going to select that and I'm going to rotate it. Done. Done. Bring that back. Done. And it's the first time I'm doing this. Rotate. Done. Okay. Okay. Save our progress so far. It's thinking. And it's done thinking. Cool. Oh, catching up on comments. Also found the vlogging kit on eBay, but it's $10 and got $10 shipping. That's... I mean, if you're able to go into a store in person, you can probably find one for cheaper than that. That's entirely up to you and your budget, honestly. And how urgently you feel like you want to get started with vlogging stuff. And, like, I get it. There is that sense of, like, I gotta get this done now! But, like, when it happens, it happens. Don't rush it. That's something I still gotta come to terms with, is if it happens, it happens. Don't rush things. So I am a firm believer in, well, not a firm believer, but I am a believer in tarot cards. And for that, I more interpret them not as, they don't read the future. It's more like a vibe check, is how I interpret it. So whenever I do a card reading, it is less, what is my future going to hold? It's more, how can I handle these anxiety feelings that I'm feeling right now? And that's what the cards are handy for. And one of the most recent pulls that I did was for Seven of Pentacles. And Seven of Pentacles energy is... it's like the discussion of the peach tree in Kung Fu Panda. If you're not familiar with this scene, which I understand, but if you're familiar with the scene, you know that in Kung Fu Panda there is a scene where Master Oogway and Master Shifu are talking with each other, and they are discussing Po in particular, because up to this point, Shifu has been trying to get rid of Po, even though Master Oogway is like, but he's the dragon warrior. And Shifu is, like, absolutely convinced that this was a mistake. And this is where Seven of Pentacles energy comes in. Because in the discussion, Master Oogway brings up the peach tree that they're both standing next to. And Master Oogway says, look at this peach tree. Because they're talking about Master Shifu's need for control. And Master Oogway is like, look at this peach tree. I cannot tell it to bloom, nor can I make it ripen before its time. And Master Shifu is like, but there are things that I can control with this tree. I can control when the fruit will fall, and I can control where I plant the seeds. That is not an illusion. To which Master Oogway is like, but when you plant that seed, it will become a peach tree. You may wish for an apple or an orange, but you will get a peach. And that is Seven of Pentacles energy right there. Is you've planted a seed. The seed that you planted is for a particular tree. It may not be the one that you wish for, but it is the seed that is planted, and maybe it could be what you wished for this whole time. But the only way to know is to plant that seed and let it do its own thing. So, like, I have intents, I have plans, and I have means to make them happen. I can only do what is within my control. And I cannot try to force anything else. By trying to force things, it's like a garden. And gardening is also something that I really like to do in my off time. Picked up some tips from Grandpa before he passed. I forgot that it was not on zoom out mode. I forgot that it was still in brush mode. So we're going to bring that back to like a 30 brush tip. There we go. When it comes to a garden, you plant the seeds and to an extent you just hope for the best. Because if you try to over garden, like if you try to plant it down to the last, plant or the last bush or the last like seedling, that's not how gardening works. It's also not how nature works. Because not every seed that you plant is going to turn into something viable. And sometimes the thing that you plant kind of explodes. Definitely had that with cucumbers. The first time that I ever planted cucumbers, I did not realize that one single cucumber plant could turn up like 16, 20 cucumbers. I'm like, I'm not prepared for this many cucumbers. But I planted one seed. I planted one cucumber plant, and those were my consequences. And I did not foresee that, but gardening. Seven of Pentacles energy. You may not know what you planted exactly, but when it's ready to grow, oh boy. Wise words. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's experience. It's a lot of experience. This is also not my first rodeo, like quitting a quote-unquote day job and breaking into freelancing full-time. I actually did this. I actually did the whole freelancing thing for like 6 months or so before taking the office job. And the only reason that I took the office job was Alex and I knew we were going to move apartments, and my freelancing full-time was not going to bring in enough money to cover moving costs. And that's when I was like, okay, I'll pick up something through a temp agency to get the money that I need, and then I'm going to get the fuck out. And then I got the money that I needed, so I got the fuck out. Now, could I have stuck with the job? I could have. But it was just not great for my autistic brain. It was noises that made me clench my jaw so hard that I was getting headaches. There was a lot of changing expectations that were getting really hard to keep track of, much less contend with. There were also just some people in HR that I did not get along with, and no amount of I don't think any intervention would have helped, to be honest with you. Oof. I'm not gonna get into the horror story of dealing with this particular HR person, because I've talked about what this HR person said to me with other people, neurodivergent and neurotypical, and everybody who I told the story to of what happened with this particular HR person was like, wow, that's a terrible HR person. And I'm like, okay, good, it's not just me. Honestly, HR people are like the worst people to deal with. Because, like, if nurses are like the mean girls who were popular and smart, HR is for the mean girls who were popular and dumb as bricks. I wish I could claim originality on that, but that was something that my older sister had observed, so credit goes entirely to her. And I was like, yeah, that's accurate. Actually, let's have some little ones and then a big one. Here we go. And then a little and a little and a big. A little bit bigger. Big. There we go. We're going to rotate this one a little bit. Good. Oh, hold on. I gotta change what the scroll function does. Okay. Well, we're getting some leaves. Yay. Save our progress. And I'm not touching anything. I've learned the hard way that if I try to click away while it's mid-save, it's going to change the template sensitivity. I don't know why. Oh, catching up on comments. Gusty BV says, I need to study tarot more. It's on my to-learn list. If I can make a recommendation, I recommend Tarot for the Wild Soul, because they're one of the few tarot schools / podcasts / teachers out there that's actually like trauma informed and queer inclusive. Because if there's any one thing that old school tarot really holds to, it's that old school tarot really likes to prop up the gender binary and like heteronormative values. Like, it's to give you an idea of the differences that really resonate with me, and also highlight the differences between like Tarot for the Wild Soul versus traditional tarot. Traditional tarot will look at the Suite of Pentacles and say, oh, the Suite of Pentacles is all about money. Whereas Tarot for the Wild Soul and Lindsay Mack look at the Suite of Pentacles and say, oh, it's about your resources and your energy. So I'm trying to think of another good example. Two of Swords. Two of Swords is a card that traditional interpretations really do not like Two of Swords, but Two of Swords in Soul Tarot is actually like a really welcome card. So, for, I think the traditional reading of, well, now my mind is thinking of Empress, but we'll get to Empress. the traditional reading of Two of Swords is that you have to make a decision and it's going to be life-changing. Whereas Soul Tarot looks at Two of Swords as you're going to need to look at the decisions put in front of you and get really comfortable with saying no. There's an invitation from the universe to just look at the choices put in front of you and say, no thanks. Like, that's what Two of Swords energy is in Tarot for the Wild Soul interpretations and the way that Lindsay Mack interprets it, and that resonates with me more than the traditional readings do. And this is especially true for something like the Empress. Because the Empress in traditional readings is like, this is the card of the mother. And like Tarot for the Wild Soul and Lindsay Mack, and this is something that really resonates with me and also resonates with Cassandra Snow, who wrote an entire book about queer tarot, is like, a lot of us have really complicated relationships around our mother. How about we interpret the Empress as just mothering energy and like femininity more broadly? How about we look at it like that? And I'm like, yeah, I like this. I like this a lot better. Also, I really like Chariot as it's interpreted by Lindsay as opposed to the traditional readings. I don't entirely know the traditional readings of Chariot, but the Wild Soul interpretation is... it's the analogy of carrying a canoe through the woods, where you feel the need to carry a canoe through the woods. But what use is a canoe in the woods? It's a vehicle that had served you in the past, but it does not serve you anymore, and you need to leave it behind to make room for something else. And that can be painful to come to grips with that, because you're like, no, what if I come across this thing? Or no, this canoe helped me get to the forest in the first place. Why would I leave it behind? But you need to leave behind the canoe if you're going to step forward to do your next phase. And when I was doing kind of the vibe check on like, hey, where are my vibes at? The first card that got drawn was Chariot. Very much that energy of, there's a vehicle and it no longer serves me. I need to set it aside. And while it could be said that that vehicle was the office job specifically, I think more broadly, the vibe is more, I need to set aside the limiting beliefs that I had, that I have, and in particular, the kind of limiting beliefs that would really stunt my potential going back into full-time freelancing. So the notions of, I really shouldn't charge this much, I think this might be out of price, I should not worry about that. Especially because I've been rewatching a lot of videos by Dan Olson talking about NFTs and Decentraland and that sort of thing, and I'm like, if there are real life people spending like $16,000 on an ugly ass ape cartoon, I can charge whatever I want on the art that I make. Like, and also just having witnessed the utter failure that is Elon Musk, I no longer feel a sense of imposter syndrome. I no longer feel that sense of, well, who am I to demand that I get fair pay for the work that I do? And seeing Elon Musk like crash and burn, I'm like, I definitely deserve to be paid a living wage. 'Cause like, if he's being paid so many millions to ruin Twitter, I should be paid for making the world a better place. God damn it. That's how I'm interpreting it. Oh, catching up on comments. I'll have to give that Tarot for the Wild Soul a look. If you're broke, I highly recommend the podcast. Podcast is a good place to start. Yeah, she updates every Monday, I think. Yeah, I would highly recommend starting there. I have a chocolate chip cookie. I'm going to enjoy the cookie, and I feel like I have earned this cookie because I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job. That said, we are getting to the 2-hour 20-minute mark. I'm gonna keep going for a few more minutes, but I will be wrapping this up pretty soon. Not right away, but like pretty soon. I'm gonna rotate this one. Yeah, I really hope that by seeing the failures of Sam Bankman-Fried and Elon Musk that you feel like, hey, these people are utter failures. I can do whatever I want now. I hope that is what you take from seeing those utter failures. Just be like, hey, if they have billions of dollars and they can fail, then I can do what I want and I can succeed. Ooh, I forgot to draw a twig. Okay, back to leaves. There we go. Okay. Oh no! I forgot twigs over here too. Oh my jeez. Okay. I need to do a smaller one. Boop. And then a bigger one. And then a bigger one. Okay. Okay, now back to twig. Doot. Needs to shrink a little bit. Boop. There we go. Maybe. There. There. No. There. Yes. Okay. Boop. Ooh. Actually, we're gonna do a shrunk down version of this leaf and rotate it. Shrink it down further. There we go. That way I can actually like loop around the thing. Okay. Oh, I forgot to change the controls back over to auto zoom. Cool. So, okay. I still have some leaves to add in this little corner here. I think once I add the leaves, then I'll wrap this up. forgot to switch the controls back. There we go. Okay, these I'm going to rotate as well. I am so glad that I made this a brush tip. This is just so much faster. Just being able to like take the brush tip and just be like, boop. I prefer this. I prefer this. It's just so much faster. Okay, I think that's all the leaves. Let's zoom out and see. Yeah, the leaves could be bigger, but honestly, I want the focus to be more on the birds than on the leaves. So I think I'll just leave the leaves be for now. Alrighty, so we're gonna save our progress. Okay. Catching up on comments. I think I have a deck an Elder Witch gave me that I could practice with. Well, there you go. Well, hopefully they won't be like... Hopefully they won't be too mean or sassy, because like every tarot card has a different... Every tarot deck has a different vibe to it. Mine is definitely like... My tarot deck is definitely like, dude! And there are other decks that are like, okay, sweetie, we're just going to have a cup of tea and we're going to sit this out and we're going to feel out the vibes and we're going to talk this over. That is not what my deck does. So hopefully your deck is nicer. Also catching up on comments again, I need to figure out how to make my own brushes in CSP2. I have a live stream that goes into that in more detail. You can check that out on my YouTube channel. Tips and tricks that I learned in Clip Studio Paint under the live streams tab. Link in the below part. So, alrighty. With that, I think now is a good time to go into the post-stream stuff, because there's a bunch of stuff to announce. So, one of the things I didn't get to this stream yet, one of the things I did not get to is that my business, Fantasyville Productions, now has an official website, and it's to a point design-wise where I'm like, yes, I'm comfortable sharing this thing. So, fantasyvilleproductions.com. Best place to go to find new updates on my crowdfunding campaigns and on other crowdfunding campaigns that I am involved with tangentially. There will be an update going up tomorrow for Be Not a Purd, biblically accurate cat angel keychains, which just wrapped up on Kickstarter not that long ago. There will be an update on that, on a few other projects that I have a hand in. All of that is going to be in an update going tomorrow on fantasyvilleproductions.com. The Legend of Jamie Roberts, which you saw me draw today, is available to read for free at thelegendofjamieroberts.com. New updates drop every Wednesday. As a heads up, I do have hiatus periods between the end of a chapter and the start of the next one. We will be encroaching that period pretty soon. I will make a more formal announcement the closer we get to that date. We're not there yet, but we're getting there. I also have another webcomic called Vanita and the Demon King, which right now, the newest updates are for my email newsletter subscribers. And to subscribe to that email, you can just head to tinyurl.com/k-emails, or you can just go to kelseydcrawford.com. The link is up in the corner on the screen. And a form will pop up asking if you want to sign up for the email newsletter. You can sign up there as well. The website, kelseydcrawford.com, is just a good place to find any personal updates of mine as well, especially since social media is kind of on fire right now. Anything else will also be on kelseydcrawford.com. And with that, I'm going to give a shout out to my fan club peeps. This month, I'm going to give a shout out to Rob Babe Z, Eileen M, Jessica McIntosh, who was in the chat with us today. Hello, Jessica. Bryce Bargar, Al Unka, Chris Wilmore, Raiden, Alice Tobin, Maya, Ella Q. Lagerquist, Andrew Bulk, Pat Jade, and Adam Vazquez. If you are watching this and you would like to see your name on the screen or in the description, you can join my fan clubs. And to do that, you can go to kelseydcrawford.com/subscribe or kelseydcrawford.com/fanclubs. Either link will take you to more information on that. So with that all done and out of the way, next live stream, I'm aiming to have it next week again, Sunday, but I will keep you posted, kelseydcrawford.com, for any new updates on that. That is all for now. Also, the obligatory YouTube stuff. Subscribe, notifications, blah, blah, blah. Thank you all so much for watching. You are awesome.